thin gruel served hot and fresh by Hannibal Lecter wearing a skin suit made of cinema.
Welcome to Groovy Movies. I'm Lily Austin.
And I'm James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello, and we are back after a very extended summer break. I hope you missed us.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of skipped summer really as far as the break goes, didn't we? But
that's how it may appear, but actually we are here to catch up on summer.
Right. So we're just on the tail end of it.
Just on the tail end, exactly. Just as everyone's moving past it and trying to forget about those summer movies, we're here to refresh your mind.
And maybe excavate a few gems you might have missed and want to catch up on.
Yeah, exactly. So how was your summer, James?
It was all right, but it wasn't like a jolly. It was more, I've got a PG cert. I've got like an academic deadline, which was this Tuesday just gone. So 6,000 words. First time in my life I've ever had to write 6,000 words of anything. Even when I did my masters, I'd never had to do that much writing. So yeah, that was pretty strenuous on the old noggin. So I needed a bit of space to get that done.
Yes. I mean, it was, I'm sure, very painful for our listeners to have such a big break between series. I believe our biggest since we've begun. But listeners, you'll be pleased to know it was all in the service of James becoming a fully qualified lecturer in film. So you'll be listening to a professional very soon.
Oh, yeah. And my two case studies, one was about how to teach Adobe Premiere without actually teaching it. And the other one was to expose students to 35mm film technology by getting them to go to a projector charity where they laced up their own projector and screened the first 20 minutes of Top Gun.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. And that's, I feel, a nice little tease for a segment in a future episode, because we're definitely going to be coming back to talking about that particular film company charity.
The Projected Picture Trust in Halifax. Look them up. Fascinating place.
Absolutely. All right. Well, as we have been cruelly driven apart by the education qualification calendar, we have a lot to catch up on. So, as we kind of already mentioned, this week we are going to go back over the summer releases, compare notes on the good, the bad, the K-pop, and also talk about the films that are coming up this autumn that are getting us excited and also making headlines. There's some controversial things out there.
So, sounds great. Let's go.
Well, first things first. Technically, according to Box Office Mojo, as I saw this morning, summer in cinema begins from the 1st of May until Labor Day weekend, which is actually the weekend just gone. Fine. We accept that. Noted. But before we get into the films that were released during that time, we both really wanted to talk quickly about Sinners because we both absolutely loved it. And okay, it came out on the 18th of April, so a couple of weeks shy of this kind of bracket, but we're breaking our rules already.
I can't believe it was that long ago now, to be honest.
I know. So what did you think about it? Tell me, James.
I thought it was a great film and a great original movie, and I'm so glad that a very good original movie has also done respectable numbers at the box office, Shot in my favourite format, IMAX film. It's a couple of cinematic firsts. It's the first film in the history of cinema to combine IMAX photography with I can't remember what it's called now, like a particular 70mm format, which has never been done before. Christopher Nolan doesn't use the same format when he goes to the widescreen sequences. Also the first film to ever be shot on IMAX by a female cinematographer, so notable in a number of respects, and only the third director to shoot a narrative feature entirely on a mixture of IMAX and film after Jordan Peele and Christopher Nolan. Then you've got Ryan Coogler. So a lot of kind of things about it that make it quite a unique experience. And just the setting, like it's a historical, it's kind of it's comic, and it's also got the horror kind of element that kind of gets woven through it. So yeah, I just thought a lot to love about this film.
Absolutely, yeah. As you probably will remember, listeners, this was, as you said, Ryan Coogler's film starring Michael B. Jordan as two roles, twins, Smoke and Stack, which in itself, it's kind of like a fond trope for me, takes me back to Parent Trap. Lindsay Lohan playing those two roles. And Miles Caton, who plays Sammy, the blues prodigy, and Smoke and Stack's cousin. Just fantastic cast all the way through. And yes, a very fun mix of being this period film exploring racism and the treatment of African Americans in Mississippi. But then through that, we get this amazing horror movie that is admittedly very From Dusk Till Dawn coded, which for my husband was a problem. He was like, it wasn't original at all. It was just like that movie. But for me, it took the best bits of that film, added like incredible music, incredible dance scenes, and like a very like, I don't know, a live issue and subject that hasn't been addressed properly on film, or very rarely well on film, and kind of merges these things all together beautifully.
But what it did right though was it didn't feel like it was being preached to or lectured to. It was part of the fabric of the film, so it was an organic element of it, which I think that's how you do these films, especially when it's meant to be a mass audience entertainment product, which it is. And I'm so delighted that did go down. It turns out there is an audience for this kind of thing, which I think would I think I'd almost given up on thinking there was an audience for it, but I think people are getting exhausted of the majority of stuff that are being put out by Hollywood, so they are turning towards these original experiences, and an experience that was made really well. It was like it was made for the cinema, and it did well. It made money in the cinema. The biggest crime against the film, and it's not the film's fault at all, is it only had 1 week in IMAX before it was kicked out by I can't remember what the film was, but IMAX have these like definite windows. So I don't think Warner Brothers were expecting Sinners to do quite as well as it was doing, because I don't think they would have just allowed it to be 1 week in IMAX. It's not been back there since, and I really think that's the best way to see it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I will say I did find the first section, the first third where they're running around organizing the party, for me, I was in the midst of organizing my wedding at that point, so it was a little bit triggering to see so much logistics and party planning going on. For me, we could have got to the main event, which is like the incredible party scene, and then kind of what happens from there a little bit faster. But that's what
but
it's a minor.
Drink it in. It's part of the atmosphere. It's nice to see a period film, and it looks like most of it they built it and they had it was all done for real. I didn't feel like they were digitally adding all that stuff. So I was just there soaking. I agree with I could have done with a bit more tempo, but then
It's a minor point. It's not. It's overall great film. And if you haven't seen it already, do catch it. Do watch it.
Do catch it. And if it gets an IMAX re-release, keep your eyes open for that, because it's definitely worth putting the effort in, because it was made for the format, and it really is it's like a love letter to IMAX photography. It really draws you into the story. You don't need to see it in IMAX, but I would say if you ever see it getting a re-release, go check it out there.
Absolutely. All right. So on with the summer box office. So the winner of the box office this summer. There was a little off-air debate about this, because
I stuck to my guns for once, Lily. Lily, you're so persuasive that I cannot. Usually I'm like, no, Lily must be right. I was like, no, on this one thing, I feel somehow I'm going to push back.
I don't think that's true. I feel like you're always very nice, like, really? And then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're totally right. I'm wrong. But you humour me. You're very good to humour me. But when I was looking at the numbers today, I was astonished to see that the worldwide biggest box office success of the summer was Ni 2, which is a Chinese movie, an animated film for children, as you might imagine. And that grossed 1.9 billion worldwide. And I was amazed to see that domestically it made 22 million, and then worldwide 1.8 whatever. So I was like, wow, that's incredible. How did I not hear about this film that's done so successfully all over the world? And yeah, James, you clarified.
Well, the way that Box Office Mojo, the website that is very good to get all your box office facts and figures. Because I had read elsewhere that it had made almost all its money domestically in China, and then when Lily mentioned the figures, it sent the inverse of what I'd heard. I thought, what's probably happened here is that the American distributor of this film, of Ni 2, it's domestically, as far as they've released it, made 22 million in America, and then overseas, which includes China, which is the native territory, made 1.8, 1.9.
Yeah, so basically Box Office Mojo domestic always means the US, even if the film...
US, which I didn't realise, actually.
Yeah. That to me seems a little bit odd, but there we go. That's how they do things over there. It's an American company. Fair enough. So it still does mean that worldwide Ni 2...
It's still the biggest hit of worldwide. It's just that 1.9 million of it almost came entirely from Chinese box office.
Exactly. So it's not actually as scandalous and surprising as I thought that I'd never heard about this movie. It didn't. It did get released in the UK a few months ago. It made 1 million. So compared that with the runner-up, Lilo and Stitch, about 1 billion it's taken globally. It made 31 million in the UK, so it's a little bit more of a dent, that, you know, a bit bigger portion. So it makes sense that that film I heard a little bit about too. But the point is, with both of these, it's children's movies that are doing well at the box office. And it's been a bit of an interest. It's been like a mixed results for the summer, right?
Yeah, I mean, for Disney, that's a great result for Disney. Can't knock that. But the problem Disney are having is they've had so many losses, and not just tiny losses, catastrophic losses. So that this one film, I mean, I haven't sat down and done the masks, but on the back of an envelope, I would say that this absolutely still doesn't compensate for the huge flops they've had over recent years. None of the Marvel films are doing very well. They're not getting to break even. Snow White was a catastrophic loss at a huge, like 400 million-ish budget, they reckon. So the problem is, it's great that they've got this one hit, but it's probably if anything, it's not. It's just balancing even if they're lucky.
Yes, and if you look across the whole of the industry, there's this $4 billion milestone that cinema has been trying to hit in the summer. Because for context, summer is called popcorn season. It's typically the most profitable time in the year for the movie business. And about 40% of the annual box office is made during this time. So it's an important moment. And before 2020, the industry would comfortably pass the $4 billion threshold. But then since 2020, it's not hit that. The best we did was in the year of Oppenheimer, of Barbenheimer, we reached 3.9 billion. So that's kind of been this like number that's in the head of all the newspapers and media outlets that report on this stuff. Is like, can we surpass this? And unfortunately, we didn't even. I think the overall revenue was 3.5 billion.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, what this shows is that attendance is really declining, because obviously what isn't immediately apparent in that 4 billion number is, of course, since 2019, we've had quite a lot of inflation pushing prices up. So, if you did inflation measured figures, it's even worse looking, as far as how many people are going to the cinema, as opposed to the ticket prices have gone up, so the few that are going are paying more. But yeah, I think they're talking about Lilo and Stitch, and these are two. That it's also, there's an interesting thing there. How has this domestic Chinese film done so well? Because this is more like you're looking at the patterns. But what has happened the past few years is that China's not taken anywhere near as many American Hollywood films as they used to do only a decade ago, right? They used to take, I can't remember the figure, but it was much higher. And of course, what started happening was Hollywood films would gain, if they were lucky, between $100 to $200 million more in China. So now we see all these films like Superman that's done 600 million. Well, if it had got a Chinese release or a big Chinese push, 800 million, right? The thing is, I didn't realize this. It looks good on you. My film made $1 billion. Well, if 200 million of that is from China, you only get a 10% cut of the box office. You don't get 50%. You don't get like 30% like you do overseas. You get so it makes your figure look good. And I think there's ways to get a bigger split, but you have to, there's a idea that in about 10 years ago, a lot of American films, they would say they were pandering for China. They were putting things in there that would appeal to the Chinese market, because if you do that, you get a bigger split. You get more than 10%, but then you are having to contractually fulfill all these obligations. So the point is, about a decade ago, there was a steady stream of American product going into the cinema, which was essentially free market research for Chinese filmmakers. They just sat back and watched these films that they didn't pay to make. Which ones are successful? Marvel superhero films. Okay, what's also successful? Seems to be children's animated films. So there you have it, Nizar 2. It's a children's animated film about, I don't know much about the details, a character with some superpowers. So essentially, American films for about 10 years served as the ultimate market research tool. China have now locked out most American films. I think maybe 10 films in total got released. So they've now just closed that faucet off, and they're just like, okay, Chinese domestic audience, here's some product we've made for you.
Wow, okay, that's really, really interesting. I mean, that in itself will have a huge impact on the box office.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like it was, I think Hollywood maybe got a little bit addicted to that extra money coming in. At least it pumped up the box office figures, which always look good for those stock market prices,
And interesting, because given the US's fraught relationship with China these days. I guess for Hollywood, it's like, well, can we pander, excuse the pun, to China? Or is that going to mean that we're going to get sued by Trump? So, we can't really do those same strategies anymore. Okay, that's very, very interesting. Okay, well, moving on, that aside, let's move on to the title I wanted to give of Man of the Match. To me, it seemed clear over the summer season, who's our man of the match? Obviously, Pedro Pascal. He starred in 3 movies this summer. Fantastic Four, Materialists, and Eddington. And what is your response to that, James?
Well, I'm not a football fan, so I don't know how Man of the Match works. So if Man of the Match is like, as far as a popularity contest, Pedro Pascal. If Man of the Match is like the person who, I don't know, scores the most goals, in this case, makes the most money at the box office, it's not Pedro Pascal. All of those 3 films you just mentioned, regardless of their critical merit, they've all lost money. So,
Okay, yeah, you make a very, very valid point. And there's definitely, you're exposing right now my lack of football knowledge, because
I don't have it either. I'm just guessing that.
For me, it's just a nice turn of phrase. And it was just,
well, we're diving deeper here, so we can see both sides of it.
Who stood out for me? And it was Pedro Pascal for kind of mixed reasons, because yes, I would argue there's been a bit of overexposure of him this summer, and it certainly doesn't help that none of those films did particularly well. But let's talk about Materialists.
Hey, are you single? I'm a matchmaker. Give me a call if you want to meet somebody.
I deserve someone who fulfills all of my criteria.
Nothing over 20 BMI.
I don't want someone who likes cats.
I'm trying to settle.
I promise you're going to marry the love of your life.
So this is a movie directed by Celine Song, who listeners might remember, or viewers might remember if they've seen the movie, from Past Lives, which is a film we both loved that came out last year. And so I was very excited to see that she had moved on. She kind of taken to me, it was like a logical diagonal step forward. It was still looking at relationships, still kind of in that area, but more of a broader rom-com and with bigger names, because it stars Dakota Johnson. Broadening out, yeah, because it stars Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and as we mentioned, Pedro Pascal. I have to say, watching it, I saw it in an amazing way. It was like a press screening, and Celine Song gave a little talk at the beginning. She was there, which was very exciting for me.
Oh no, that's always good. That's bad as well, because if you don't like the film, you're going to be like, oh, she's right here though.
Don't worry, she actually left right after she said her spiel. She'd obviously seen it enough times, so that wasn't a problem. But I know I would have felt a bit self-conscious. But I had such high hopes for this movie, because it did have the look of the typical kind of early to mid-noughts rom-com, the kind of the heyday of those rom-coms where the woman has an implausible, glamorous job, usually at a newspaper. And in this case, it's about a matchmaker, which interestingly enough is based on Celine Song's own life. When she first moved to New York, she, as like a 20-something, she got a job as a matchmaker. And that, I think, is clear in the movie, because the best parts, for me, the bits that worked the best is her interacting with people who are using the service, and the men and women in New York who have this long list of very, very ambitious non-negotiables, a huge salary. If it's a man, they have to be tall. All of these things, and also someone I lived in New York for 6 months when I was younger, and this definitely all rang very true to me. The way dating is done, like it's business, and you've got to get the best deal, is different even from London, I would say.
So I just to interject here, like I didn't know quite if you, because we've been very strict at not really giving our full thoughts on it, which is great, because I wasn't sure which way you were going to go on this film, as far as did you love it or did you think it was a disappointment. And I have to say, Lily, see, when I turned up to see The Materialist, I'd just done it as like a trip to the cinema. I hadn't really done any research on it. I didn't realise it was Celine Song. I had no idea. And then the credits start. I was like, oh shit, it's the follow-up to Past Lives. Great, So already, like, my default letterbox review was on a solid 3. You're off to a solid start. I'm interested. Number 3. And I was hopeful, like the first few shots of it, I thought, oh, this could be a very classic New York rom-com. Like the cinematography is beautiful, and so like I was thinking, okay, this could be going up to 3.5 and a 4. But as the film kind of went on, it kind of was going down. It's like,
Yes.
oh God, sorry, just that was my it sounds like a similar experience I had then.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's worth a watch if it sounds interesting to you. But I definitely felt that there was something wrong with the structure of the film. I felt that we didn't really, that it sort of seems, even with the marketing of the film, right, with Dakota Johnson in the middle and Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal on either side, it's meant to be a love triangle.
It's clearly meant to be a love triangle.
But
right?
that's not the structure of the film. And I felt that
there was no stakes, Lily. There was no stakes the way the interconnected.
Yeah, that's true. Very few stakes. That's absolutely true. And also, I just felt like the relationship between Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans' characters, that should have been more, that kind of comes later, and it should have been more at the start, so I would be invested in what happens with them. So there was just a lot that was missing. Also, I'm sorry, there's this thing with beer. She orders a beer and Coke at the beginning of the film. And this is something that Celine Song in her little speech at the beginning talked about being an important scene, that once she wrote that, she knew she could write the rest of the film. That kind of cracked it for her. But for me, that beer and Coke thing was a real red herring, and it didn't come up again.
Yeah.
So listeners, if you do watch the film, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that's about. Because
I thought that was going to pay off in some interesting way. Yeah.
Yes.
But watching it, I think what you've described, what your issues were exactly the same as mine, and all the way through. Well, not all the way as the film progressed, because it had a good what do you call it, halo effect, as it's Celine Song's follow up. I was like in the zone, but I just thought this script needed a couple more passes, because all the problems described about structure, things not quite adding up, the fact it should have been more of a triangle. Absolutely, it's like ridiculous that it wasn't. All of those things, I think, 2 more drafts going through it would have brought all that together. Because I was just thinking, has this been rushed through? Because she did very well on Past Lives, a lot of buzz. So maybe she need. I don't know. If she'd been working on the script for a decade, like there was Kowski's with The Matrix, that's a different thing. But if this was like, what have you got in your back pocket? And she's like, oh, I don't know. It just, that's the feeling I got, that everything was rushed.
I agree. I suspect that it may have been more about the fact that they had this great trio of actors attached, and they were all available at a particular time for filming. I suspect.
Although the casting actually changed a lot. Do you know it? It had the original lead character was meant to be played by the actress from The Worst Person in the World, which I thought was a very interesting pick.
Well, that would have been cool. I could see that. But I really liked Dakota Johnson in this film, and I have to say I've had sort of mixed feelings about her before, just because I feel like she's often been cast in slightly incorrectly, like in A Bigger Splash. She's meant to play someone who's 16 years old, and she's like at least 10 years older than that. I mean, yeah, Madam Web, but honestly, her her kind of like press tour around that was hilarious, so that made me like her. But I think okay, whatever the reason, I agree with you. It did feel a bit rushed, and I also honestly I think Celine Song is a great director. She makes beautiful films. But I also think that maybe this is also slightly a symptom of the director-writer hybrid that is now the default. If this film had been made in the 90s, it would have been probably directed by someone else. And then with that other perspective, that other point of view, there could have been a slight rethinking of the structure, which would have made it kind of flow a little bit better. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. She's very good at like touching on something that we can all understand and relate to. In this case, with the trials of dating in the modern world and how difficult that is, and it feel kind of moving. So this film is done pretty well. It was made for 20 million. It's made 85 mil worldwide. So I suspect we'll see another Celine Song film hopefully before too long. And I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah, I think we will. The thing is, I was just thinking, where does this put her on, like, how I'm feeling about her follow-up film? Because for me, she's in, like, director jury's out, because I also start to notice the limitations of her directing style. I think she's great with actors. No problem with how she can direct performances, especially with a script that I didn't think was as good as it could be. Thought she's great with bringing out those character performers. But I really start to notice she's there's not much going on with blocking or camera work. Once I start to realize that every scene is either two people already sat down talking or two people walking into a location, standing still and talking. And I'm not saying every film needs to have a dynamic camera, but I was just like, because she's a stage director, and I'm just thinking, are we just pushing up against her limits as a film director? I don't know. So I'm want to see a third film, but the combination of the script needing more work, and I was just thinking the directing felt very basic. I just thought, because when Harry Met Sally, which is always my touchstone, it's unfair to compare things. There's a lot going on with the blocking, the camera. It's a total film experience. Whereas this was like, it could just be a bit stagey, perhaps.
Okay, now that you've said that, I'm going to have that in my mind. Something I wasn't even, of course, thinking about because I'm just character based. But that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see with the next one. Maybe that is something that she will work on in future films. Let's hope she listens to this podcast and doesn't cry too much and just takes on the feedback.
Yeah, if you could just, take our notes, ignore the studio notes,
Exactly.
The Groovy Movies podcast notes. We'll sort you out.
So so one of the other films that Pedro Pascal was in this summer was Fantastic Four, which neither of us saw.
No.
And it was sort of pitted against Superman as, which of the superhero movies is going to take the top spot, is going to be a smash this summer, because historically it's usually a superhero movie that does pretty well. Well, neither did amazingly, but Superman did better than predicted, right?
Yeah, it did. It did. I think we had a chat a few weeks ago, and I was like, it needs to make 650 million to break even, and it's at 600 million. And it's debatable. The break-even point could be low, but sorry,
604 million. It's getting there slowly.
Hooray! We're in profit from now on. But it's debatable where exactly it is. But the point is, one of them definitely flopped, and the other one, it's not set the box office on fire.
No.
Which is what when they launch, they call it a new franchise. It's a reboot of the DC. You do factor in the fact that the first one, you might need to build your audience, right? So I think the idea they're hoping is that that's the start and then you build. But Superman's like one of the biggest superhero characters you could ever make. So if he's not busting $1 billion,
Okay, well, let's talk about Superman a little bit.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
You seemingly acting as a representative of the United States.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me.
Around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
So this particular one was directed by James Gunn. And okay, this was important for me because my new resolution is to try and see more movies that I wouldn't necessarily always see. And truth be told, listeners, as you maybe already know, I haven't seen that many superhero films before. I have obviously seen the Batman movies, the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, of course. And I saw a Spider-Man when I was a kid. But
interesting. Andrew Garfield or the other guy? Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. I was like 11 when that came out, so I saw it when it became, because that was when they introduced the 12A. It was just 12 initially, and they made it 12A, and so then I could go see it.
Oh, that was for Spider-Man 2, I think. Yeah.
No, it was the first one.
The first one. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because I went to see the very first 12 certified film.
Oh, really?
When I just turned 12 at the time, I was like, oh my God,
wow.
I'm 12 and I can see a 12. Care to take a punt what superhero film that was? When I was 12.
When you were 12. So when would that have been? The 80s?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. Was it Gremlins?
No, I think that was like 15 or something, but no, it was Tim Burton's Batman.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, that relevant. So it's always superhero movies.
Yeah, it was created just for Batman because they found it a bit too dark for PG, but not really. But if they made it 15, they'd lose most of their audience, which is younger boys.
Yeah, and that was the problem with making Spider-Man 12. It's like all the kids want to go see it. Anywho, all that's to say is that I went into this movie not knowing a lot, but I understand that James Gunn has been a very significant director in reanimating, as it were, the superhero movie scene, right? It was that he has like a particular style, and okay, James, I know, has some reservations about it, but on the whole, that audiences have liked it. This kind of quippy, buzzy, very energetic. Let's put some fun, contradictory music behind a fight scene vibe.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy who wrote the two Scooby-Doo films when he was in his writer period before he became a director. So he's got this kind of breezy knockabout style with a bit of an edge to it, I would say. And then, he came and did the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, both of which, the first one especially, were box office smashers. And that was very much in the Marvel vein. But I have to say, out of all the superhero movies I've watched, I really struggle to get through Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just not my style, this kind of quippy, breezy humour. But it's also very popular, so that's one of those things where I just happen to not quite be tuned into what seems to be very popular. So, and then he got kicked off Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because of some tweets he made 10, 15 years earlier. So then he went to DC were like, well, fuck it, we'll make one of our films. So he remade the Suicide Squad. So the Suicide Squad had 2 films in the last decade. There was one that absolutely bombed, and there was James Gunn's one that didn't bomb as hard. And I went to see that in the cinema, and I loved it. I thought, this is great, because it was an 18-rated superhero film. So it had proper visceral gore violence, which you don't often see because it's normally sanitized violence. And anyway, it just worked, and I had a great time at the movies with it. But he is very much this kind of quippy director, and that's not what DC's house style usually is. So then Marvel, like, you know what, maybe we should re-employ him because he was a very good director who made us billions, rather than get rid of him because of a couple of tweets he made. And so anyway, so he then came back for...
So he got uncancelled.
He got uncancelled because he makes money.
That's always how it goes, right? You do the quick cancel to lip service to the fans who are upset by that, and to wait until they've hopefully forgotten about it, and then, okay, especially if it's a man, okay, come back. You were making money for us. That's how capitalism works.
I can't remember what the substance of the tweets were. It's something that I wouldn't have tweeted, but anyway, the point is, he came back. He was invited back into the fold, and then DC have poached him. So he's essentially made his name money wise in Marvel, and now he's over at DC.
Okay. Well, I thought I quite enjoyed the film. I have to tell you. So it's David Corrin Sweat, the worst name of all time, playing Superman, and Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor. I thought Nicholas Hoult was a great Lex. That was fun. And I think because my expectations were quite low, because it's just not the genre that I find interesting whatsoever, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, this is quite a fun film. The storyline makes no sense. It does at times feel a little bit retro. There's this whole scene where he's debating with Lois Lane, and he's having this debate with her about whether or not to be interventionist, which felt a bit like circa the Iraq War. Not super relevant to today, but, we've kind of moved on a bit, I'd say, politically. But on the whole, I thought it was okay. I think just because my expectations were so low. But you, even without watching it, demand very strongly against my position. And I said, please go see the film so we can talk about it. And you said, only if you in exchange, you watch the Superman from 1978. 1978. Thank you.
78.
So
which one was the easier watch for you?
The 2025 one, I have to tell you.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
right.
I found. Okay, here's my feelings about the 1978 one. It starts off very well because we start on Krypton, on the planet that Superman's family is from, and you see Marlon Brando.
What the fuck?
As Superman's dad. Cool, very cool. Love that.
I mean, there's certain things about that film that you just can't get any other time in cinema history where Marlon Brando's the right age and whatever, you can get him to be Superman's dad.
Yeah, I mean, completely extraordinary. I loved that. And I really love an origin story, and it was fun to get that full story of Superman being shot out of his planet onto Earth and then being discovered by the farming couple, the Kents, thank you. And then the teenage Superman figuring life out and then becoming the fully fleshed Superman played by Christopher Reeve very famously. So I loved all of that. But then the minute it got into the actual kind of the meat of the film with Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor, it was, for me, there were no stakes because it was a comedy film. Lex Luthor was not at all, threatening. He seemed, pretty silly. Interestingly, I was curious as to why the Lex Luthor in this film wasn't bald. I thought maybe we were going to get into the origin story of him losing his hair, but it turned out Gene Hackman just refused to be bald. He didn't want to.
Right.
He was like, I will do it once at the end. But, I would rather be wearing comedy wigs and it be obvious that I'm wearing wigs than me be seen on screen bald. But yeah, so for me, it just was like...
Got too goofy.
It was goofy and just not exciting, but I wouldn't say it was like significantly worse than the 2025 version. They were sort of on a par and had strengths and weaknesses in different ways. It was a lot more, it was a much better storyline overall. The new Superman's plot is just so like, what is even happening? It's completely confusing. But I found Nicholas Hoult much better as Lex Luthor, I have to say. I liked him being kind of Elon Musk-esque.
Yeah, So we've on our Groovy Movies time together, we have kind of done somewhat of a bit of swap of places, which I find hilarious. Is that I've been burnt by a few bad superhero experiences, so now I'm much more reading the reviews in advance, just being a bit more critical, and so I'm just kind of done with them unless I get the feeling that something's particularly of note, So I'm kind of like, I'm funnily enough, I've been reversing out of all my superhero phase. But I'll just give you the first and last sentence of my Letterboxd review. just so if you want to read the full thing, go to my Letterboxd. But it's
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah. Existentially joyless and grim, thin gruel served hot and fresh by Hannibal Lecter wearing a skin suit made of cinema.
I must say, beautiful prose.
Thanks. When I'm taking something down, I can really get quite eloquent. And I know that technically it should be Buffalo Bill wearing a skin suit. I know, but it just flowed better being Hannibal Lecter. Anyway, So yeah, like sometimes words fail me actually, and I've been, because it was a few weeks ago now I watched it, and I've got some thoughts about it, but like mostly it was just a feeling, an empty feeling, and it was. I know that part of it could be like, did I go in pre-programmed to dislike it? Well, not when I'm paying money to go to see a film. I'm here to be entertained, but I kind of sat through the end credits and I was just very, very empty, very kind of numbed out by it. And I had that feeling almost from the very beginning. And I think it's a culmination of creative choices that each one just kind of didn't work for me, or kind of just fell off, and so it just all added together. So from the very beginning, we start with text on screen. A lot of films start with text on screen, that's fine. But then we see Superman. The first image we see of Superman, he's got blood coming from his nose. It's like, okay, right, so we're seeing a vulnerable Superman who bleeds. He rarely bleeds. That's the whole thing about Superman. So we're already subverting that, and I'm like, okay. And so it just, everything carried on like that. It's very episodic. Like you say, there's no real plot. It's just like, here's one thing. You definitely couldn't say you're bored. It rattles along, but I wasn't going along with it. That was the main thing. And then I just started to notice things like, 'cause I think once I'm in that zone, like the thing about the 1970s version of Superman, which I really love, is that Metropolis is New York. It's this, and it's a romanticized New York. It's shot at like dusk, magic hour, whatever. You really feel like that. It puts you in that place. Like, yes, it's Metropolis, but we kind of know it's New York. Here, for tax and budgetary reasons, they didn't shoot in Manhattan. They shot in, I think, in Ohio or Minneapolis. And they shot, the thing is, a lot of it shot in the middle of the day, so the sun's coming down really harsh on all the VFX and all the shots of Superman. And the romance is gone, again, that's not it's a subtle thing, and that alone doesn't make the film bad, but I just think they all stacked up on each other. And so I just thought, for me, Superman's like this character where it's more like a feel, like I'm not an American, it's not like a patriotic appeal I've got to Superman. It's certainly Fantastic Four and Superman were my very first introduction to comic book superheroes. So there's almost, for me, the fact that I saw the 78 original on re-release in 1980, I saw the second one in the cinema in 82. It definitely goes back to a lot of my formative years as loving superhero films anyway, and loving films in general. So I just think it just hit quite hard. Whereas, that's the difference between your and my experience of it, is you didn't have that particular connection to the film. So that hurt. For me as well, just occasionally having real world issues-ish in the 2025 one. I don't know. I wanted to be lost in a fantasy world. I didn't want to be kind of thinking about it just rubbed different ways. Whereas with Gene Hackman, it's nice. He's a real estate, although that's kind of weirdly prescient. He's just a real estate guy.
I'm going to push back on that because I think every single Superman, there have been many, many dissertations written about this, how Superman is echoing whatever is happening in like a US foreign policy. I don't think that ever, that's kind of what I expect of it. And that's what's quite fun about it. I mean, Superman was invented as a sort of pro-US after the war, emblem.
Of the might of the American Empire. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's par for the course. I just thought obviously it was a bit toothless and a bit dated. So if you're going to do it, let's do it well. Let's have some fun with it. I think. But anyway, I feel like we should probably rattle through the next one because we're going to be striking the same tone. But another film that made about the same amount, made 600 million, was F1 the movie.
When was the last time you won a race?
Sunday, Daytona.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Formula One.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then same as you.
I love Top Gun Maverick, and I thought the visuals of Tron Legacy were awesome. That's Joseph Kosinski behind them all, and so he's certainly a visual stylist. But I wasn't that fussed. I got the impression, and all from the reviews I get, is that the driving sequences are great, and then the bits in between are just a bit whatever filler kind of. And so I didn't particularly feel like I needed to go see that in the cinema.
You basically hit the nail on the head there. I saw it because I went to a press screening. I honestly probably wouldn't have paid to go see it necessarily.
Oh, you've seen F1? Oh, right.
Yeah. James, I have seen that film. And much like with Superman, I was weirdly, pleasantly surprised because my expectations were very low and I did not enjoy Top Gun Maverick. But I realize now, I watched Top Gun Maverick on a laptop at home because we were going to talk about it. And I think with all of these films, you absolutely have got to see them in a cinema. It's important. And with F1, the storyline was a little complex and, implausible. But it was sort of fine. It kind of worked. It's about, Brad Pitt stars as a kind of former F1 star, though he never managed to quite take the title. And then he's encouraged by Javier Bardem's character to come back to the game. And if it's a game, the race, I guess. And it's the classic thing of he's sort of competing with his teammate who's the young hopeful, and he's obviously this much older, kind of has been. And so there's that dynamic between the two of them. So it's kind of a classic story in a way. It was the driving scenes were genuinely exciting. I was breath taken away many, many times. So I thought it was kind of fun, but it's an interesting film because it's definitely a film for people who have watched and enjoy Drive to Survive. Is that what it's called? Drive to Survive? The F1
Need for
TV
Speed?
show.
I don't know.
Oh, is it Need?
I don't know what we're talking about here, but
Drive to Survive is like a Formula One TV show that's a mega hit.
Right. Okay.
It's huge. Okay, this was my question. I was curious about if you knew anything about Formula One at all. Okay, we're both in the same boat.
No, sport is a big black hole. It's just been filled with movie trivia, So.
Absolutely. Hey, you and me both. But yeah, so it's just, I think that really has propelled its success, is the fact that there's this huge worldwide audience who love it. It's like a big hit across the world. So it's a film that's very much reflective of what's happening and what people are watching kind of broadly on streaming. And that, that's great.
And tied in with a big brand. Formula One's a big brand. It's it's an existing IP, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, well, no, I don't think that's. Look, I know that you're a stickler for IP, but I feel like that's okay. If people are going to the cinema,
as long as the film's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it's that I don't know if it could have been. Maybe it could have been better than this, but it was it's for a film that's going to replicate the excitement of watching Formula One, which I assume is all about seeing the nerves of people racing very fast.
Yeah.
It kind of echoed that quite well. So I thought it worked quite well. And I'm just fascinating to see that this is Brad Pitt's biggest box office hit of all time of his whole career.
Yeah. I had no idea about that. I thought they had something that had made more money, but yeah. I guess because he keeps out of superhero films, which are the ones that more reliably have been cracking the $1 billion boundary.
It's true. Okay, so should we try and get a bit more positive? James, tell me about some films you've watched this summer
I know,
that
I
you've
was thinking about this,
enjoyed.
oh my God, we need something. Yeah, films I've enjoyed. My summer's all been, it's been a re-release summer for me, really. So there's not been a great deal that's excited me that's been new releases, but instead what I've been doing is just kind of looking at what's been out and about that I might like to watch on re-releases. And as you know, I'm an enthusiast for film projection, 35mm, 70mm projection. So I kind of keep my eyes open for that. And being up north, unlike you lucky lot down south, where every day of the week you can probably hunt down a film screening if you want to at the Prince Charles, the BFI, and I think some of the other cinemas around London have film projectors as well. It's much rarer to get your fix up north. You know, you've got to really do your digging. So Manchester's a death zone. I went to Bradford twice to watch The Heartbreak Kid and Phantom Thread. The Heartbreak Kid, which it's not the 2000s Ben Stiller remake or whoever remake. It's the 1970s original.
Just plain old-fashioned, corny lingo, sir. I have fallen head over heels with your Kelly here. There is a slight complication. I happen to be a newlywed.
And it was written and directed by Elaine May, who we've covered her more well-known film, Ishtar, on here. And I have to say, The Heartbreak Kid was phenomenal.
Yeah?
It was, oh yeah, like the script is great. It's such a crisp, vibrant script. If you remade the exact script now and didn't change anything, you'd still think it was a fresh spin on the rom-com because it's an anti-rom-com. By the end of the opening credits, you've seen two people meet on a first date, fall in love and get married, and the film starts once the credits are done, just after the wedding, you know.
Oh my God, love it.
Yeah, and immediately the guy's finding fault in his new bride, and she's got like a funny way of eating that he doesn't like, and so immediately starts cheating on her. He starts flirting with this other woman who's played by Sybil Shepherd, who's like, you know, Sybil Shepherd in the 70s, and so, you know, he's a completely unlikable character who's cheating on his wife. The wife's also portrayed as a bit annoying, so, you know, but not worth cheating on. So this is the basis of a romantic comedy. You know, that's the setup. And I'm like, I've never seen a film like this. Why is this from the 70s feeling like something fresh? So yeah, the characters all well observed, the comedy well executed for a 70s film. In the audience, we were all laughing along, having a great time. So yeah.
Okay, this sounds incredible. I can't believe I've not really heard about this film. I'm definitely going to watch. Maybe we need to do an episode about rom-coms because, you know, that we're in an interesting moment of it being a bit of a lackluster genre, and so we need some recommendations for old good ones, I think.
That's an old good one, and the thing that's notable about it is it's hard to get it's hard to view it. Basically, I think there's a copy on YouTube that's really rough, and so this screening was organised by an arts kind of collective from Leeds called Rat Depot, and it was a personal mission of one of the members because he wanted to see this projected from a film print, and they had to find out the rights owners, and it turned out a pharmaceutical company owns the rights to this particular film because of how things get bought and sold around the world. Just somehow this got parceled off, and now this random pharmaceutical company owned the rights for it. So you've got to negotiate with them to be able to screen it legally. And then they had to find a film print, and the BFI in their archive happened to have an unrestored, like from the 1970s print in their archive, and they got that pulled up. So it was a real labour of love and a proper effort to get this onto screen and for us to experience it from a print, not just from a YouTube rip or a DVD.
That's incredible. How did you even hear about that?
Just every week I'll go on to the Pictureville, which is Bradford's cinema, one of the best cinemas in the world, they say, and they have a regular 35, 70mm screening. So I just keep my eyes open. Anytime something pops up, it comes on my radar. So
that's incredible. Very, very cool. Well, speaking of this past weekend was the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And so that was re-released across cinemas in America and has taken I think Weapons is still number one this weekend at the box office, but just under that in America is Jaws, and a very worthy film, I think, to see at the cinema.
Yeah, but I think Universal has slightly been a bit naughty. Well, have they been naughty? I don't know, but basically in Cineworld this weekend, every film's £4. But when you go to look what's on, it's pretty much the super screen. All they're showing is Jaws in 4DX. Every screening all day is the Jaws film in 4DX, which I reckon will be a hoot. But
I see.
I think they're trying to make it. They're trying to force it to do well at the box office.
They're trying to make Jaws happen, and it seems to be happening. Well,
yeah.
I wanted to talk about a kind of a late entry, a late runner into our list of summer highlights, because I saw a fantastic film this week, which probably isn't in a lot of cinemas still because it's a very small indie film. But if you can catch it, Sorry Baby.
What are you up to this fine evening?
I was wondering, do you have like stuff that makes a fire?
Why do you need it?
My friends and I were gonna make like hot dogs.
Hot dog sounds good.
I'm sorry, we only bought 2 hot dogs.
Amazing.
Okay.
Directed and written by Ava Victor, who I'm titling as our non-binary person of the match, because this film is fantastic. And I can now say I've seen a film that was truly excellent and everyone must see, and possibly my favorite film of the year.
Well, yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ, I need to see something that I like, and I again, same mindset as you. Maybe the bar was lowered so much, but I really enjoyed Weapons. I went to see that a couple of weeks ago.
Every other class had all their kids, but Mrs. Gandy's room was totally empty. And you know why? Because the night before, at 2:17 in the morning, every kid woke up, got out of bed, walked downstairs, and into the dark. And they never came back.
Don't usually go and see horror film, not my kind of genre cup of tea, but it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday afternoon, not even evening, and the cinema was almost packed out, and everyone was into it. You know, there was laughter, there was like gasps and stuff. I was like, oh, great, this is like a proper communal cinema experience, but it takes a bit of horror, I think, these days to get people in. I personally could have done without the extreme horror. Like, I think I would have enjoyed the film just as much, but I realise that's just my particular taste. You know, I'm realizing that, if you want to get a bit of nice character drama, a nice bit of cinematography, if you wrap it all up in a bit of horror, that seems to do quite well. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yes, I had the same experience. I went to see Weapons last week, and full cinema. There were screams that sounded like they were part of a Scream track, like they'd been played over there was literally like a perfect scream at one particular moment. And I mean, I actually didn't mind the extreme gore because it was very comedically done. This was a horror slash
It was all well done, don't get me wrong.
But it was played for laughs. And so it was quite, I mean, of course I had to look away a few times, but it was like sort of more funny than scary. I saw another film in the summer, Bring Her Back, which is the sequel, a film made by the same people who made Talk to Me, which had been like a kind of a slightly surprise hit. And this film was, I'd say, a lot more. It was like an incredible horror movie, like very, very effective, but incredibly dark, grim on many different levels. So like a horror movie in the truest sense. But yes, with Weapons, it's comedy. It's broad.
It's a lighter comedy horror.
Yes.
It's like I wouldn't say it's a straight up comedy. No, it's horrific. But
I don't know. I was laughing the whole way through. I mean, you're right. It's a mix of. It's horror with comedic moments, but I honestly
it certainly goes on a tangent I wasn't expecting, which made it more entertaining than horrific. You know what I mean? Like towards the end, like it could have gone 2 ways. It could have doubled down on the kind of mystery, and it didn't, which made it more palatable in the end for me.
Yeah, but for me that was slightly a disappointment, you know, and actually a surprising connection between these two horror films, Bring Her Back and Weapons. They both have the mechanics of what's going on are actually quite similar. I won't spoil anything. The reveal is kind of similar, which I have mixed feelings about. It just play into some of my issues with like the tropes of horror movies in general. But both very entertaining films. You could definitely say this is like, as is the case throughout the year. Yeah, it's horror films that are doing well and are keeping the box office going. And these are the films where you'll go and, I went on a 6 p.m. on a Thursday, usually when people are like at the pub or still at work, and it was completely full in the cinema, and it's been out for a few weeks. So that was really nice to see. But just to bring it back to Sorry Baby, I'm sorry, I just need to plug this.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just...
Sorry, baby.
I just need to plug this movie a little bit because it was so good that I just have to shout it out because I laughed out loud so many times. It was very, very funny, but it's black comedy because what this film is about is basically about a person dealing with trauma, which sounds grim. And I did cry 3 times in the film. It's very moving, but it is also one of the funniest films I've ever seen. The way that this story is handled, it's like the most sort of sensitively and truthfully rendered depiction of like something bad happening to someone and then them processing it, but also like the funniest I've ever seen. So if you can find it, Sorry Baby, it's a wonderful film. And I was so relieved that I'd gotten to the end of summer, to that Labor Day marker, and I had seen a really, really excellent film. So before we rattle through the things we're excited about coming up in autumn, we've got to just finish with a shout out to the biggest surprise of the summer, which was, of course, K-pop Demon Hunters.
It's time. The world will know you as pop stars. But you will be much more than that. You will be hunters.
Our women of the match, the Huntrix band.
Yeah, I managed to. This one's unfortunately didn't get a chance to watch this one, Lily. So, what were your thoughts?
Yes. I know that you were devastated to miss that one.
I was definitely interested. Don't get me wrong.
Well, when I first heard about this movie that was doing amazing things for Netflix, it is now Netflix's most watched movie. It's had over 236 million views. And subsequently, because of its success on the platform, they then put it out in cinemas. So it was released on the 23rd of August and so far has taken 18 million worldwide, which I find quite an interesting reversal of things. What do you make of that, James?
Bloody Netflix shakes my fist in anger, basically.
Why?
Why? I mean, because it's... those 236 million views would have been much nicer as 236 million people going to theatres, buying popcorn, buying drinks, basically getting people going to theatres. What happened instead was that it became hugely popular. Netflix was like, let's scoop up. Really, it's not about the cash for Netflix. That's $18 million of basically they got paid to advertise their own film. They made money for advertising K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix to get people back in. So it's very cynical. And like Netflix and IMAX are making some not great moves. I mean, this whole Narnia series of films that Greta Gerwig is directing, that's meant to be having a 2-week exclusive window in IMAX theatres, which sounds not too bad, but when you realise that's exclusive to the IMAX screen. So if you're a cinema and you're going to show the Narnia film, you can only show it in the IMAX screen. You can't show it in like 7 other screens in your multiplex. So what it's going to do is pump the box office figures for 2 weeks in those IMAX screens. And so again, it's just serving as advertising. They're not really going to make a lot of money from it. IMAX are going to do very well, and the theaters are saying we don't want to sign this. We don't want to do this. This sounds terrible for our end of it, from the theaters end of it. And IMAX are now saying we've got a contract, and so we're going to probably bring the lawyers in if you don't do it. So it's not basically theaters are being strong armed by a combination of Netflix and IMAX, and it's not a good look for either of them, I think.
I hear what you're saying, and that's disappointing. But I think realistically, the idea that those 236 million views would have been in the cinema if Netflix didn't exist, the world has moved on, and unfortunately, most people do watch their everything via streaming, and unfortunately, that is just the reality. I mean, business is inherently cynical. So I sort of think that I'm just glad that it's gone to the cinemas at all to kind of, because cinemas need people to come out and see them, and Netflix don't need to do that. It's not actually in their interest.
You're right from that respect, absolutely.
I'm glad about that at least. But I mean, I have to say this movie.
Sorry, my cold, cynical heart.
No. I just think that realistically, like seeing like streaming and the cinemas as like good and evil in Star Wars, I don't know if that really. It's as straightforward as that, if I'm honest with you. I feel like...
See, I think it really kind of is.
I know you do, babe.
The thing is, about 7 or 8 years ago, I didn't think it was as simple as that, and now I do. Sorry, I've lost your voice. I can't hear what you're fighting back with.
No, I think I just stopped at a certain... I understand that, but if I'm honest, I feel like you can't take some parts of where the internet is at now, aka using ChatGPT, and then also be like wishing that streaming didn't exist. It's just not the way the world works.
No, sure. I agree with you that it's the relative reality. I think the point I'm making is not necessarily inherently streaming shouldn't be evil, but what it's done, it's completely upended the finances, the bottom line is completely skew if now. You don't make money by getting people into theatres. It seems that streamers basically make money by showing that they've got good viewing figures and inflating their stock price. So the product they're making doesn't cover the bills. So essentially, what streamers are completely symptomatic of almost the entire of capitalism right now, which is based on debt and based on inflating your stock market price, rather than the rather quaint notion of you sell a product for a profit and that builds your company up. So streamers are just part of the entire system.
Gotcha.
I get it. I guess what I'm doing is I'm pointing it out that this is not good long term. I don't not quite know where we're going to be in 10 years' time for anything, for any of the visual entertainment.
And yet again, you've convinced me, and I think I'm wrong. It's a very valid point, and I'm with you. Okay, guys, get to the cinema, buy a bloody ticket. It's all about physical media. Buy that ticket. Hold that ticket in your hand.
Oh my God, what a 180. We did it, gang. We did it, physical media.
You are the convincing one out of the two of us. Okay, well, I don't actually have a lot to say about K-pop Demon Hunters. I feel like I am in the minority in the world for finding it completely uninteresting, and I was just trying to get through it because I told you we should watch it, and so I had to say to my word. But people love it. They love the songs. And that's great, and it's just not for me. And I don't quite get why like grown-ups love it. Like,
See, it is like this is what happens to me sometimes. You just find yourself slightly outside of popular taste. You're like, is it me? What?
Yeah. And it must be me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But it's still, it's fun that like a K-pop movie is like a global hit. Like, a kind of as like more international taste, I think is one of the few like net benefits of the internet or streaming or whatever. So I like that. Okay, well, let's just wrap up by looking ahead a little bit. The main thing that I was interested to see that I wanted to hear your take on, James, was the new Avatar film.
All I think about, the only thing that comes when I watch that new trailer, it just was like sludge washing over me, like blue people things.
Absolutely.
Blue people things.
Yeah.
But I think, God damn it, when we did watch it for the podcast and you watched it in 2D, like
by
the
mistake.
whole point of.
And there was a woman whose feet were up on the seat nearby me. These difficult conditions, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and like the only reason I watched it last time was I thought, I'm going to get the whole experience of this 3D, 48 frames a second, blah blah blah, 4K, all this, and even that I just was like, oh.
I loved it.
Not unless we want to do it for the podcast. I'm just no.
I don't. I mean, look, it's set for a Christmas release. It's coming out on the 19th of December. I don't really. I feel like we've got better things to be talking about at Christmas, like that
True.
are like objectively
But if
good than than this.
I agree, but the big mystery about Avatar is that it's got no pop cultural it leaves no footprint on the pop culture. Nobody talks about Avatar. There's no Avatar, fancy dress. Does anyone ever come as a Na'vi? It's like, the point is,
the first one, yes, obviously, and then it's been wiped from all our memories.
But the second one, it still made $2 billion. This third one, I don't doubt it's going to clean up. But it's like, but what happens? Do we just somehow it draws us in? So anyway, yeah, it's a weird thing that has no pop cultural presence but makes a ton of money.
I agree. Okay, so something that's maybe more interesting and also coming more quickly. Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another.
I need you, brother. Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
Super hyped for this. Very looking forward to this. It's his biggest budget he's ever had. Warner Brothers, what were you thinking, giving Paul Thomas Anderson over 100 million? I'm very glad you did, but this is like, he managed. He picked his moment. I think Warner's like, oh shit, we need more original films. Sinners, yeah, go. Paul Thomas Anderson, go, because Paul Thomas Anderson's films have never made over $100 million back at the box office.
Yes, but we've got to remember this is a collaboration with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's playing the main character, which does probably account for like 100 mil of that budget. That's it. They never would have got that budget without Leonardo on hand.
I reckon he was reasonably priced. I'd look into it.
No way. I'm sorry. He's the only. I think he's pretty much the only star now that brings people to the cinema. He's like, him and
but his character's tested quite poorly. I mean, it's Paul Thomas Anderson doing Thomas Pynchon, so it's whatever the character he's going to be. I think he's one of these. He doesn't seem to have gone down well with test audiences. Not that matters to me as far as does that mean the audience is good or bad, but test audiences have been mixed on his character.
Hey, no, I agree with you. So from what I've seen from the trailer, this is a sort of black comedy / kind of action movie. DiCaprio plays a civil rights activist who's looking for his daughter. And just from the trailer, I couldn't really gauge whether or not it's going to do well, but I agree that I mean that doesn't surprise me to hear that it hasn't played that well with test audiences. I think that he does well when he's doing this like comedic / hero performance, and this might be a little bit too black. Paul Thomas Anderson can be pretty kind of black at times, unless he's not particularly broad or like mainstream, I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that Warner's they don't know how to market it, and it does feel like we've had a bunch of trailers where they're trying different things. So I think Warner's a bit worried, but then maybe I'm hoping that it's like Sinners, that Warner Brothers and all the marketing people are just not very hot on it, and they're a bit worried about it, but it finds an audience. But will it find a big enough audience to make its money back? I hope it does, but yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting film anyway. So I'm hoping there is a bit of a growing audience for this kind of stuff. We shall see. Shot on VistaVision as well, which I'm very much looking forward to, which is an ancient 1950s film format that Hitchcock shot Vertigo on, and it's actually getting 2 screenings on specially restored VistaVision projectors in LA and New York, which I would bloody love to see. But hopefully I'll be able to make it down to the BFI IMAX that's meant to be screening the IMAX 1570 film print, so that should be interesting to film.
Yeah, hopefully we can see it that way.
I mean, and that's the other thing, sorry, it's an action film shot on film with practical real stunts, not CGI. It's proper car crashes, proper bullet hits. It's like, they don't make films like this anymore.
Yeah, and for that reason I am looking forward to seeing it, and I think that there is a little bit of hype around it, though you're right, some of the marketing does seem a little confused, but for me it's just that the title, One Battle After Another, is amazingly forgettable, and that's a shame.
Yeah. But apparently that is what the film is. It's just one battle sequence after another. The whole film is apparently one long action sequence, which of course Paul Thomas Anderson, not really known for his action sequences, but I'm sure he'll pull it off.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Well, just to finish up, we've decided we wanted to put our money where our mouth is, in a sense, because obviously, as we've done this episode, as we do every episode, we wang on about how important it is to go to the cinema. So we thought it would be nice to end each episode with a recommendation of either an independent cinema or an interesting screening that's coming up. So James, take it away with this week's recommendation.
Well, this week's recommendation is somewhere that I've been years ago. It's like a regular on kind of people who are really into kind of film projection. It's a regular on their calendar. It's the widescreen weekend at Bradford's Pictureville. It's been running for, I think, maybe 20, 25 years now. And it's a weekend devoted entirely to widescreen films, but specifically widescreen films presented in their native film format, so film projection. So if you're interested in seeing either an interesting old film, or if you're interested in checking out why the hell he keeps going on about film projection, what's so great about it, this is the place to go. They sell a pass like 150 quid for the entire weekend, but what happened is near the time they then release individual screening tickets available. So that's what I've done because I can't afford the whole pass. So I'm going to see Baraka in 70mm, which is like a travelogue by the same people who did Koyaanisqatsi and things like that. So it's more like a experiential film, like a documentary from around the world. I'm also going to see, which I've been dying to see, This is Cinerama, because Bradford Pictureville is the only cinema left in the world that has a Cinerama screen. There's none left. There used to be one in LA Cinerama Dome. But Cinerama is a 1950s novelty format, which you shot the film with 3 cameras side by side, and then you project it from 3 different projection booths. You need to have 3 operators. You need to have 3 people operating each of the 3 projection systems. So, seeing a film in this format, this is like one. There's only one screen left in the world, and then financially they can only do it once a year at the widescreen weekend to afford 3 projectionists and go to all the trouble. So that's like the film itself is not that great from all impressions. But that's not the point. This is like a piece of film history that you get to see.
Okay, I was completely sold until you said the film wasn't that good. But no, I'm still intrigued. I want to see it. That sounds incredible.
I mean, I think it's good in the fact that it's a slice of time. It's a documentary travelogue, so they have a sequence on a roller coaster, like a wooden roller coaster from the 50s, and so obviously that super it's a curved widescreen as well. So it's not just a flat widescreen; it's got depth to it. It's an almost 3-dimensional image, and then there's like shots of you're on a boat behind like 5 women water skiing behind the boat and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a gimmicky 1950s travelogue, I imagine.
Well, that sounds incredible to me. So what day is that particular screening on?
That is on. I've got my ticket. I think it's the Friday. Thursday the 25th. Unfortunately, so midweek.
Thursday 25th of September.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys. If you can make it to that screening, take a trip to Bradford. That sounds amazing. I want to go.
And there's like patterns being shown there. There's a Korean cinema subsection. Lots of those are digital projections, which are not so great for me. Dune, the original David Lynch version, getting shown in 70mm. So it's like there's not one type. Oh, and there's a Jack Lemmon season as well, widescreen Jack Lemmon. So there's lots of things. It's not just like nerds nerding about film, which it's 90% of, but there's a bit of other stuff as well.
Incredible. All right. So that's our recommendation for coming in a few weeks. The widescreen weekend in Bradford. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our first episode back of Groovy Movies.
Yes, thank you. It feels like we had a lot to talk about. And if you can leave a review, give us a like, all of it helps raise our profile, get this podcast out to as many people as possible.
Okay. So we will see you next Tuesday. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Groovy Movies is produced and edited by us, Lily Austin and James Brailsford. And James also produced the theme music.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Groovy Movies Pod, or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
For more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.